All right. Hello, everyone. It's Brendan here from Repo Man, and we had a new song drop today. That song is called "Song About You." So I'm going to show you a quick mix breakdown. So if we start at the beginning, you can hear there's this guitar intro. Okay, so there's an acoustic guitar there. And you'll see this is over to, it's panned to the right. There's a few different plugins on it. This is a plugin I use all the time. It's just because it's, I don't know, just your basic EQ without being a graphic EQ. So, like, for instance, if I were to fire up a graphic EQ, now suddenly I have all this frequency and bandwidth stuff to worry about, and there's like an analyzer and just a whole bunch of information that I don't really care about. I'd rather just use my ears, and so I typically go with a plugin like this. Doesn't have to be that. You could use something like Tokyo Dawn Records Slick EQ is a really good replacement for this solid EQ. It's great because it's free, and it works really great. I typically use the solid EQ thing just because I have it, and I use it. This is a Native Instruments plugin, and it came with a Native Instruments bundle that I have. I would have never bought this for itself. I just bought it, or I bought a bundle and it came with it. But anyway, so you can see we're boosting a little bit here at a little over 2000 hertz, and we're boosting again at around 6K. And that's it. And that acoustic guitar sounds like this. There's also an electric guitar playing in that part. And here's that. You can see once again, good old solid EQ. And in this case, this is panned all the way to the left. This is just for the intro. That guitar is panned all the way to the left. And once again, it looks like the same EQ setting, actually. So anyway, so this is panned all the way to the left, and it sounds like this. That's Mike playing guitar, by the way. And then the two together sound like this. It's important to note that the reverb is included here. So we're using the 47 milliseconds of pre-delay part. So the way I set up reverbs is I have 3 different pre-delays, and going to one reverb, and I send different stuff to the different pre-delay faders. So each one of these has a different pre-delay. So you can see I've got 25 milliseconds. I've got 47 milliseconds. This one has 75 milliseconds. This one has 120. And typically I send different things to these reverb returns based on how far back I want them in the mix. So drums would be the thing I want farthest back in the mix. So that goes to the 29 millisecond pre-delay, and then something like vocals would be the thing I want the closest in the mix, and that would go to the 120 millisecond pre-delay, and then other stuff would be sprinkled in to the other two. You, at least the way I learned to do it, you can move things left and right in the mix with the pan knob, but you move things forward and back with delay and reverb. So anyway, less milliseconds on the pre-delay makes something farther back. More milliseconds on the pre-delay makes things seem closer. So there you go. Anyway, I'm kind of getting off on a reverb tangent. The point is that these two guitars in the intro are going to the 47 milliseconds of pre-delay, and together in stereo they sound like this. It's worth noting that if I hit this mute button, it mutes the reverb, so you can hear. I'm going to turn the reverb on and off, and you can hear what that sounds like. It's super subtle. You can see I have the reverb turned down almost 18 dB. This is the master reverb. When we get into the vocals, that'll become more apparent. But yeah, you don't need, a little bit goes a long way with reverb. So don't feel like you need to really go for it with the reverb in general. Okay, moving along. We get to the next part of the song. And now we have Adrian's amazing dual lead melody part. For this, I got really great tracks from Adrian. You can see the two here. So basically, whenever I click one of these little triangles, it opens up one of these buses. So I use Reaper, and one of the features that I like about Reaper, Logic has this too, and Studio One also, you can bundle groups of tracks by their bus, right? So when I click one of these triangles, it opens up the two tracks that go to this bus. So as we go on, if you see me doing that, you'll know what's going on. The shorter faders are the actual channels that the signals are coming down on, and then the taller one is a bus. So in this case, you can see these two are going to this bus. Anyway, these are getting back to the lead itself. These are both going straight up the middle. They're not panned left and right. And I got really great tracks from Adrian. So again, I'm just using another solid EQ. You're going to see a lot of solid EQ on this. That's a plugin that I use constantly. In fact, I have a key command for it. So if I highlight this track and I hit Shift Q, you'll see it pops up solid EQ. I use that plugins so much that I have to have a hotkey for it. Anyway, I got really great tracks from Adrian. So I didn't have to do that much to it. No compressor, no nothing. Just good old EQ. Looks like I'm boosting a little bit of 3500. And it looks like I'm boosting a little bit at right around 100. And again, that sounds like this. Here's what it sounds like in the track. So the burning question is, well, you know, you're talking about that, but I mean, the drums started up. Why aren't you talking about the drums? And I am going to talk about the drums, but one really prominent thing about my mixing workflow is I focus on what's in front first. So while mixing this, you know, I would listen to this melody before I would mess with the drums. And I would get that sounding good. And then I would go listen to the drums, which sound like this, by the way. Your listener is focusing on, you know, the thing that's the feature at that moment, right? So it's important to really retain an understanding, you know, of the reach of the other things that are playing at that moment. You know, if someone's singing, that's the most important thing. If someone's playing a lead, that's the most important thing. If the drums and the bass and the rhythm guitars have to change slightly to feature those parts, well, then that's what has to happen. But anyway, getting on to the drums now. Again, I've got really great tracks on this, so I don't really have to worry about it that much. If I turn off the reverb, you can hear it completely dry. You're saying, well, I'm still hearing reverb. What's the deal? Well, it's because I've got room mics going. So I've got your pretty basic, you know, drum setup here. I've got a kick drum with an EQ on it. I've got a snare with another reverb. Here's what the snare sounds like. I guess I need to look at my tracks here and see what I've got going on. Okay, so there's a bunch of handoffs here. That's why there's 3 different snares. So we've got a snare lead, we've got a snare chorus, and a snare verse. So I'll burn through those here in a minute. The hi-hat is, you know, your basic hi-hat kind of a thing. Not really too much to that. There is a high-pass filter. There is an EQ on it. It looks like that. It looks like I'm compressing the snot out of it. With Rough Rider, that's a free plugin, by the way. I've got a reverb on it and a limiter. This is also a free plugin. Moving right along, I've got cymbals and yeah, the cymbals have a de-esser basically. So TDR Nova, this is another Tokyo Dawn Records plugin. This is a free plugin, and it's especially cool because it has a dynamic feature. So you can definitely use it like an EQ, but you can also set a threshold, and then when something happens, it'll compress. So let's see if I can find a cymbal hit here. All right, so you can see when that cymbal hit happens, it's actually ducking the cymbal hit. So that begs the question, well, why not just turn the cymbals down if they're too loud? Why duck them? It's a good question. The answer what I was going for here was I was trying to tame the initial crack of the cymbal and also kind of give it some compression without using a compressor necessarily. I mean, this is a compressor, but it's only compressing a certain frequency, and that gives it kind of a frequency response that I'm going for. Again, this is really just about using your ears. So if we turn this off, I find that to be a little too immediate. This has a cooler kind of a splash to it. And it has a longer decay. So here, check it out. So here it is without the plugin. So it has this very natural decay. Now with the plugin engaged, so you can hear at the end of the cymbal hit, it actually kind of blooms. So yeah, that's what I was kind of going for with that. And then I've got overheads room. You can see the overhead has no plugins on it. I'm sorry, we don't need that window. But I've got a room mic, which sounds like this. You can see it's pretty far down in the mix. If I bump that up, we can hear it. Typical room sound, tons of mid-range. You can see I've got an EQ on it. Looks like I'm taking out some low mids. That's pretty common with drums. Take out low mids with toms and things like that. But anyway, so this room mic, I'm just taking out like almost 6 dB of 364. And that's mixed in with the whole drum kit. Actually, I need to put this back. All right, and then I've got a room crush. So if I put this up, you can see that I'm crushing the snot out of this with a T-Rex compressor plugin, which is a model of a distressor, an Imperial Labs distressor, which is a really aggressive compressor. And something I really like to do with room mics is compress the snot out of them. You can see that I'm also EQing it. Here is the EQ. Again, I'm taking out about 6 dB at 364 hertz, and I'm doing that after the compressor, and this is what it sounds like, and you can hear that it is compressed to death. So why do that? Well, it brings out the ambience of the space, right? So you've got kind of the natural reverb of the room coming out, because that's compressed so heavily. So altogether, and so if I remove or if I mute the room crush, you'll hear the ambience go away. Here, check it out. Let me turn the reverb on. Okay, so when I click this button and it turns red, that means the room crush is off. You can see it's labeled room crush. That means the room crush is off and that you're going to hear the ambience of the drums go away. Check it out. I know we just did this, but I'm going to show you one more time. So yeah, you don't need tons of reverb because stuff already has reverb on it. Okay, so the next thing is I want to talk about these three different snares. If I get rid of the mixer, you can see that I've got a snare LD that stands for lead, snare chorus, CH, which stands for snare chorus, and snare VS, which stands for verse. So why I have that is that I have the snare handed off to these three different lanes of audio, right? So in the lead and the intro, we've got one snare sound. In the chorus, we have a different snare sound. About you. And then in the verse, we have a snare sound that's even different again. Wouldn't be exciting at all. So if I bring the mixer back and I solo these, you can see what's going on. Typically in a verse, I will make the snare be darker, meaning less treble. Then in the chorus, brighter. That's definitely what happened in this case. You can hear that the verse snare is considered, it's subtly darker. Then the chorus snare. Again, super subtle. And then in the verse, in the leads and the intro, it's even brighter, and it seems like it has like less low end. Anyway, I typically find that having different snare sounds for different parts of the songs, subtly different snare sounds for different parts of the songs, helps to differentiate the parts, and it makes the song sound a little more exciting. So anyway, that's the drums, and here they are again in their entirety. And here they are in the track. So now we get into some vocal stuff. Looks like I'm clipping. That's no good. I could write a song about you. I could write a song. I guess that was from before. All right. So the big thing with the vocal is I've got, let's close this up. You can see I've got a few different vocal tracks here. I think we did several different takes. That's why that is that way. But then down here, there are these little falsetto bits, which sound like this. They're kind of funny on their own, honestly. Write a song about you. And those are doubled, and they go to a delay, just like the main vocal. Could write a song about you. I could write a song about you. I could write a song about you. All right, so the big thing about this vocal is, you know, Mike sang it real well, so there wasn't really a lot to do with it. I am taking out some, like 300, it looks like. Yep. Quite a bit, actually. Then I've got our old friend, the solid EQ. I'm just taking out some low end, taking out some low mids, boosting some 4K, boosting some 10K. Looks like there's a high pass at 60 hertz. This is really just, you know, turn the knobs by ear. Then I've got a compressor, and I'm really killing this thing with compression here. You can watch the meter. You can see it's going to go all the way down to, like, I don't know, 7 or 9. Could write a song about you. I could write a song. So this meter is showing you gain reduction, so you can see it's really ducking the vocal down. Could write a song about you. I could write a song about you. All right, so the trick to that is I've got a really fast recovery set. So basically what this is, with all that compression and a really fast recovery, it's going to just make sure that the vocal is kind of always at the same level. And I have a pretty fast attack set, but you'll notice if I turn the attack down, you'll start to hear the front of the words go away. So here, check this out. Could write a song about you. I could write a song about you. So the attack, it's again, it's super subtle. We're dealing with like super subtle splitting hair stuff here, but as I turn the attack up, you'll hear the front of the lyrics come back. Could write a song about you. I could write a song about you. I could write a song. All right, so I've got a pretty fast attack, but not so fast that it's cutting off the beginning of the words, and then I've got a really fast recovery so that the compressor gets out of the way when he stops singing a word. And after that, we have this Greg Wells plugin, which I don't know, doesn't really do that much. It just adds a little bit of saturation, some more compression. It does add some delay. Could write a song. If I disable it, you can hear what it sounds like. So when you see this check mark disappear, that means that it's not on, or it's bypassed, I should say. So here we go. Could write a song about you. I could write a song about you. I could write a song about you. So obviously it's changing the volume pretty vastly. Sorry about that. Anyway, that plugin does a little bit of stuff, but it's not, you don't need it. That's going into a side chained delay. So what does that mean? So I've got this delay set up, and if I bypass this compressor, you can hear all the delay that's on this vocal. Could write a song about you. I could write a song about you. That's a ton of delay. Could write a song. And I like it, but it's in the way, right? Like, so if I were to play that in the track. Could write a song about you. I could write a song. It doesn't really work. It's too much delay. So I'm going to use a very common trick, which is where I use a side chained compressor to duck the delay while he's singing, and then the delay is going to rise up when he stops singing. So you can watch the meters here.
Could write a song about you.
You can see when he's singing this red meter, that's the level. So it's ducking the level all the way down to like, you know, minus 18 dB. That's the level of the delay. And then when he stops singing, the delay comes back. So check this out.
Could write a song about you. I could write a song about you. I could write a song about you. I could.
So you heard that at the end of the phrase, the delay starts to bloom a little bit.
About you. I could.
So that's how that works. I have that on the backing vocals as well. So, looks like I've got way too many channels open. On the backing vocals, same thing. I've got a, looks like a real similar EQ. I'm taking out a bunch of low mids. I'm taking out some 1000 to make room for the lead vocal. I'm boosting at 4000 and 10,000 again, and I've got a high pass of 250, looks like. Let's see if we can find some of that. There we go.
Write a song about you.
Again, we've got a sidechain delay. Same exact thing going on here.
Write a song about you.
Not really much to do with the vocals. I mean, if you've got good tracks, you know, there's just not that much to do. But the lead vocal, definitely I did a lot more. Again, I've got a couple of EQs and I'm compressing the snot out of it. And then I've got this thing adding some saturation and more compression and turning down the level significantly, as we've discovered. Anyway, the two vocal parts together sound like this.
Tick. It would not be magical. Wouldn't be exciting at all.
Listening to that in solo, that might be a little cringy. Anyway, so that's how the vocals go. And here they are in the track.
It wouldn't be romantic. It would not be magical. Wouldn't be exciting at all. I could write a...
Okay, so the guitars, once we get into that section, are basically just an acoustic guitar. Over on the right. In our live stream last night, I was saying it was up the middle. I guess I'm wrong about that. And then we've got so we have a I think that's Adrian in the middle, and then okay, so this is Adrian playing on the right side. And then also Adrian in the middle, which you can barely hear. And then, excuse me, Mike on the left. Not really doing a lot to those guitars. Looks like there's an EQ on one of the handoffs. Boosting a little bit at 2000 and boosting a little bit at 6K, but I don't really know where that is even being utilized. Oh, that's in the intro. So in the intro, there's that. So in Mike's guitar in the intro, I'm adding some high end. Anyway, getting back to the tune. These are the electric guitars. And if I add in the acoustic guitar, if I turn the reverb off, sounds pretty much exactly the same. Just to drive home again, I make that point just because I want to drive home again that, you don't need tons of reverb. So those are the guitars. And then there's a tambourine. We were lucky enough to be graced with a tambourine performance by Rick Furley. I know this is really hard to hear. So I've got a high pass at 200 and a low pass at 14K. Compressing the snot out of it. By the way, this Klanghelm, it's called MJUC. This is one of my favorite compressors. It's not free, but it's also not very expensive. I think it's less than $30. Anyway, love this compressor. So the tambourine, I've got a high pass and a low pass, just basically taking all the rumble out. The track I got from Rick had some rumble in it, so I'm taking out the rumble with the high pass filter, and then I'm just knocking the top off a little bit. Compressing the snot out of it with the MJUC, and then I'm adding some EQ again, adding quite a bit of EQ, adding quite a bit at 2600 and quite a bit at 7K. Then I'm also adding some low end, some low mid at 510 and adding some mid range at 1000. So altogether, the tambourine sounds like this. And it's way down in the mix. And the bass is the last thing. So it's me playing bass. And here's what it sounds like. So my thing with bass guitar, often what I'm trying to do is really focus the frequency content of the bass around, between 300 and 450 hertz. Usually it ends up being around 350 hertz. So you can see I'm taking away 3 dB at 1400, and I'm taking away like 12 dB at 250. And what that does Whoops. I didn't mean to do that. So I'm going to bust out a graphic EQ here real quick just to show you an example. So you can see I've got a high pass filter at 90 hertz. That might seem really high, but the bass I use is a Stingray, and it has a ton of low end, right? So it just sounded good to me to high pass it that high. So we're going to put that at like 90. And again, I really like using an EQ with knobs because it forces me to use my ears and not see what's happening on the screen. But in this case, I do want to show you what basically is happening with this EQ, right? So then in this low frequency knob, you can see I'm taking away 12 dB at 250 hertz. And that is a shelf, which we can see right here. So I'm going to make this into a shelf. And we can see that I'm taking away 12 dB. Something like that. And I guess the Q doesn't really matter in this case, but we're going to put that at like 250. And then here in the low mid frequency, I'm actually lower, or I'm actually boosting, or I'm taking away, what am I doing? 1400, it sounds like, or it looks like. And you can see I'm using a pretty narrow Q. Something like that. Okay, so if I adjust the Q of this a little bit, you'll see what I'm talking about. So anyway, now we've got this. So looking at this graphic EQ, now we're seeing that what we've created is this, this kind of this hump starting down around 350, and well, it started way down here, but the point is that right down here around 350, we're up above minus 6 dB, and then we keep getting higher, right? And we're peaking up closer to 1,000. We are taking out a lot of low end, and we're really trying to highlight this frequency and this frequency. So I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to now put that EQ on the bass. I know this might be kind of confusing, but it's going to come together here in just a second. So what you were just looking at, you were like, man, you're really taking a lot of low end out of that EQ. Well, or you're taking a lot of low end out of the bass. Well, now we're going to look at an analyzer. Okay, so after this EQ, where we're taking out 12 dB at 250 hertz with a high pass filter at 90, like, you would think that we're murdering this bass, but look at the analyzer. Down here at 100 hertz and below, there's lots and lots of information. And in fact, there's lots of information all the way up to whatever this is, like 450, 500, 600. So that's right where we want to be. I'm really wanting to focus the bass right around here. And if you're looking at this, you'll say, well, it's not focused there. It's focused down here around 100 hertz. But trust me, if I start taking away any more low end, the bass is going to start getting really thin. But what I'm hearing is this really great focus right around here. If I take away this EQ, you can hear it really doesn't sound that different. It just gets really tubby and gross. Here's with the EQ put back in. So with the EQ in, it's super articulate and hard hitting, and I can turn it up because there's not too much low end. Without the EQ, it's less articulate, has a ton of low end, so I have to turn it way down in the mix. So anyway, the EQ here is for articulation and to make it be heard. I have dwelled, I think that's a word, dwelled. I have dwelled on that for way long enough. Sorry, everybody. The next step, when it goes to the bus, I hit this thing called Freamp. This is a free plugin. This does distortion. And I have the mix turned down. If I turn this way up, it gets super distorted. If I turn the drive all the way up, you can hear it gets super distorted. Anyway, I really like Freamp. A, it's free. B, what you can hear is that it does a very subtle distortion. So if I hit this button, I can put it on bypass. So when it's red, it's on bypass, right? So I'm going to turn that on and off so you can hear what it's doing. Just adding a tiny, tiny little bit of grit. And yeah, it's super cool. I will typically put this on bass with a similar kind of a setting. It just makes it pop out of the mix a little more. And then, of course, another MJUC where I am compressing the snot out of it. Again, I'm using a not too fast attack because I want to accentuate the beginning of the note. So if I turn this down, if I turn the attack down, you'll hear the beginning of the notes go away. That's all there is to that. And again, I'm murdering it. Like we're talking minus 6 dB of compression. Maybe not quite that much, minus 5 dB. And then another EQ, which I put on just a minute ago to show you the low frequency content of that. And that's everything. There's a rear bus, which is basically just everything but the drums, again, run through a compressor. I can't really solo that just because of the nature of it. If I solo it, then all the things that go into it can't be heard. There's lots of videos about doing a rear bus. Just search rear bus. You might also search Andrew Scheps. He's the one that made it really popular to do. My reverb is the Acon Digital Reverb that is kind of a tribute to Reverb, the online used music gear marketplace. This is a free plugin. And I'm EQing that quite drastically. I typically will EQ reverb this way. It won't always be this, but it'll typically be a low pass and a high pass. And then I have these, like I talked about earlier, I have these various pre-delay returns sending into it. And then on the master bus, there is another TDR Nova. Again, this is a free plugin. I'm using it as an upward expander on the low end. Now I'm using this in mid-side mode, so I'm just applying this effect to the center of the stereo field, right? And it's just bumping up the low end ever so slightly on the kick drum hits. Just to give that a little movement. It's super subtle. You can see it's barely moving. I'm doing the same thing now on the sides, in mid-side, on the highs. It's not even moving in the intro. About you, I could write a song about you. Yeah, that's not even moving. So that's not a very good demonstration of that. A lot of times on the bus, I will have this, again, I'm just kissing the needle, just having it move ever so slightly, to add a little more high end on the, whenever there's a snare hit or something. There, I adjusted the threshold a little bit just to get it to move, but you can see what that's doing. Then I go into the Waves SSL bus compressor. It doesn't have to be this bus compressor. I know everybody got mad at Waves recently for their business practices. I'm also mad about that. I may find a different bus compressor, but I typically use this just because it works. You can see that I'm getting between 2 and 4 dB of gain reduction using a pretty slow attack and a fast release. If I bypass this, when I hit this in button, when the light's on, it's in, and when the light's off, it's bypassed. And typically what I like about an SSL style bus compressor, I actually have a hardware unit. It's not an SSL. It's an old Chameleon 7720 that's been heavily modified. But that hardware compressor and this plugin kind of do the same thing, which is that when I turn it on, it doesn't really do anything but just make the stereo field ever so slightly wider. So here, check this out. I'm going to turn it off and on, and you can, hopefully you'll hear what I'm hearing, which is that, it's a YouTube video, so I don't know with the audio fidelity of a YouTube video, but what I'm hearing is that the stereo field just gets ever so slightly wider when I turn it on. So I'm going to start with it off. Song about you. I could write a 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 song about you. So that's what that's doing. It's also knocking the tops off of some of the really hard snare hits. And then the BSA Clipper, also not a free plugin. There's lots of ways to clip your audio. Your whatever DAW you're using, I'm sure comes with something. I really like this one because it doesn't show a red on the meter.
Song about you, I could write.
That's literally the whole reason I use it. If I had somebody in the studio and they saw that I was clipping something on purpose, and they would see that red, they'd be getting nervous. They'd be saying, you know, I mean, is it supposed to be getting red like that? What's that about? So I use this clipper because it doesn't do any red on the meter. That's literally all it is.
Song about you, I could write a song about you. I could write a song about you. I could.
And that just allows me to get the level of the song higher, and I can lop off any really tall transients. You can see it's rarely clipping, if ever. Right, so if I turn this down, so that's what allows me to get the volume before mastering. If I turn this off, it's going to get a lot quieter. Check it out. So that's the volume coming out of the bus compressor. This is with the clipper. Anyway, this is, again, it's not a free plugin, but it's made by Black Salt Audio, which is a company either owned or partially owned by Jordan from the YouTube channel. I want to say it's called Hardcore Music Academy or Hardcore Mix Academy. I can't remember. Sorry, Jordan. But anyway, I love this plugin, and it's not terribly expensive. And I'm sure you're already watching his YouTube channel, but if you're not, you should go check it out. Anyway, that's it. And here's the tune.
It would not be magical, wouldn't be exciting at all. I could write a song about you, it could be exactly like you. I could write it just before I fall. I could write a song about you, I could write a song about you, I could write a song.
Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. The song is available now on all of your favorite streaming platforms. Also, you can find it on Reverb Nation and SoundCloud. And you can go to our website, repomanband.com, and find it there too. And everything else that we have going. I hope this was helpful. And we'll talk to you soon. Adios.